Good evening and welcome. Would you believe we are now episode 51? And yes, there's three grey-haired men appearing tonight. And for those that get the podcast, you won't see this vision, but yes, it's true. There's three greys. So this is Property Avenue WA. For those who have not joined us before, episode 51. The focus is all about WA. It's your avenue to WA Matters Property. And we try and discuss and be as broad as we possibly can. We welcome your questions. And, of course, tomorrow, being Wednesday, you will be able to upload, download, or whatever the case may be, your podcast from wherever that you get your podcast. So we've now extended that, what we do and where we go, and we hope that you get some value out of it. It's meant to be informative. It's meant to be relaxed. And tonight we're going to enjoy a guest that we both know pretty well from the Geraldton Midwest region. He's got his own building company, and we're going to have a chat to him about a range of things associated with building, and more particularly what's been going on in the Midwest area. There are a range of other things. We've even got some questions to ask. Of course, we'll have Oscar's stats, and we've got, as we say, you ask the questions, we discover the answers for a range of property questions. And if we've got time, we'll have a look at the headlines of what's being said about property matters around Australia, to be honest. And we will also, as always, finish with an if question. So looking forward to your company. Hope you enjoy what we have to offer. As I say, if you've got some questions, you can go via our Facebook pages and you can do on our live chat. And alternatively, well, that's probably the best option to do. But otherwise, if you don't do it tonight, you can send questions through to us throughout the week via our Facebook page. We've got a Property Avenue page. We've got an Instagram page. We've got a Twitter account. So we're pretty well available, whichever avenue you want to use. So without further ado, OD, welcome. Good to see you. How was the week?
Mr. Tony Viner, made an absolutely fabulous week so far. Fantastic week. Fantastic win by the West Coast Eagles on the weekend, albeit not in front of one single spectator, which I really honestly believe that was the right idea, or rather the right decision, in order to not have the crowd. But mate, I've had a great week so far. Super busy, like I mentioned to you off air. But, mate, I almost don't want to spend too much time recapping what I've been up to, because we do have a really good guest who I think could talk the leg off a chair. And I can't wait to hear a lot of what Squizzy Taylor has got to say about a big topic at the moment in the Midwest, in fact, around the state, and that is building timelines, and the cost of building as well. So, mate, can't wait to get into tonight's show.
And without further ado, I'm glad we won't talk too much footy, because I think after what my team did on the weekend, as did Jody Bevan, and I noticed Jody Bevan has already sent a message, the three wise monkeys was his comment.
I thought the Stooges, not the Stooges, perhaps.
But importantly, it's important, although he's got a big smile on his face, it's always important. Warren Squizzy Taylor, really appreciate you coming on board, mate. So Squiz is the director with his wife, Janine. They established in July 2016 Warren Taylor Homes, and Warren Taylor Homes have, in that short space of time, have been very successful. In fact, the last 2 years, 2019 and 2020, have won the Regional Country Home of the Year award, which is an exceptional achievement. Squiz also, believe it or not, I think the first time I first met was when he was in real estate, and he was a part of that profession for some 7 years. And something I didn't realise, something I didn't know before, was that he still to this day drives road trains during harvest season, and he's been doing that for some 18 years. Yeah, so there you go. And when I rang him today to have a chat about a few things and see if we could get things sorted, he was actually driving a truck. He wasn't building homes. He was out driving a truck. So there you go.
Hang on, let me explain that one.
Yeah, we can explain that later. He's also a sponsor of the Railways Football Club and the Northampton Rams, which Northampton have been in the limelight of late for all the wrong reasons with regard to Cyclones, and was on the board for Northampton and is currently on the board for Railways. So he's not. He doesn't sit around and do nothing. And and he was also on the board for the Murchison Regional Aboriginal Corporation, and a busy man. Squiz, welcome, and thanks a million for coming on board, mate.
Well, thanks for. I'll use the term gentleman loosely, but thanks very much for inviting me on. And geez, it was a pretty good wrap. You've We had a blackout here, Tony, the other on Sunday, and I didn't get the footy results. Who won?
I don't know which game you're talking about, mate. I really don't care.
In Perth, mate. It was in Perth.
Oh no, not the Perth. I don't have an interest in the Perth games. I don't.
Sensation.
Jody Bevan and I support the same team.
Oh,
So how did Geelong go on the weekend then, TV?
Yeah.
Probably best if we don't discuss it. Let's say the lounge room in the Viner household was a little bit, should we say, it was a bit dynamic. No, it wasn't pretty. So besides football, can I just quickly, for those that can read and watching the live stream will see our disclaimer, but I do need to read it because we have a podcast tomorrow. General advice disclaimer, which the information of this podcast is regarded as general advice. Your personal objectives, needs and financial circumstances were not taken into account when preparing this content. I got that word right for a change. And we also advise and recommend you seek personal, professional and financial advice tailored to your specific individual needs before making financial, property and investment decisions. As we say, get someone that you believe in and are comfortable with, and ensure that you get support and advice for your individual circumstances. So we've done all the hard work. So, gentlemen, what we might do, just OD, before we get on to Squiz, just quickly, a quick rundown of what's happened in real estate for the week.
Okay, so look, it's the same story, TV, as it has been week in, week out for the whole of this year and even the last bit of last year, and that is we've got an extremely strong sales market across the board. That's Perth, but that's the same in the Midwest. In fact, it's pretty consistent throughout the state. A very, very strong, active sellers market. Not enough stock, but plenty of buyers. And we've got exactly the same conditions in the rental market as well, as in not enough stock. We've got a rental crisis, clearly, and we've got a lot of tenants after a very short supply of properties. In particular, though, and probably the most telling thing that I've got to talk about in terms of stats over the last week is what effect did the 3-day lockdown have? Not this, obviously, this last weekend just gone, but the weekend before that for the long weekend, that's when we actually had a 3-day lockdown. And what impact did that have on the real estate transactions? Well, in a nutshell, it knocked off about a third of all transactions in terms of property selling. So we can actually see that, when you can't get people to home opens, when they can't see their competition and who they're bidding against or who they've got to buy against, it really does start to affect people's buying decisions. So in terms of the week ending end of last week, 645 sales. Normally that number has been up to 900 to 1,000 sales every single week. But the week that included that COVID lockdown, 645 sales. 12 months ago, if we remember where we were 12 months ago, we were just coming out of the COVID period, and COVID was a brand new thing. Right now it's 12 months old, but COVID was a brand new thing back at the time. And we had 364 sales in the same week 12 months ago. So back when COVID first happened and no one knew what COVID was going to do to our economy, our sales volumes dropped down to about 240 or 250 properties, and slowly it started to creep back up, and now a few weeks on, it made it to 364 sales. Again, that was 12 months ago. So right now, we expect that certainly my discussion with all the real estate agents around the Perth metro area is that even though that sales volume was down for the lockdown weekend, there's no shortage of inquiry from buyers. There are people buying properties sight unseen. They'll rely on the videos that are on the internet. They'll rely on the photos that are on the internet. And there's a lot of competition still as well. And again, no change in the rental market. The numbers were down a little bit in terms of the volume of properties leased for that lockdown weekend, but only marginally, probably down by probably around about 20%. But still very, very strong. There's still a rental crisis, and I can't see that changing anytime this year in the Perth metropolitan area or probably WA. And there's lots and lots of tenants for a very short amount of properties. So that's it in a nutshell, mate. No change. Our conditions are strong, but we just had a bit of a speed bump during that COVID lockdown weekend.
I think we should involve our guest as soon as we can, because there's lots. We talk about a dynamic and a stressed, if you like, property market, and there couldn't be any more stressed market than the building industry. Squiz, how has your world been, shall I say?
Yeah, well, up here in Gerro, it's the same as in Perth with Oscar. Like properties are selling pretty fast. There is hardly any rentals left up here. So some people will sell a house to build a house. Then they've got to go to live somewhere while the house is being built. There's nowhere to go.
Yep.
So that's a roll-on effect all the way through. And up here at the moment in Geraldton, we've gone through some highs and some lows. This is probably the highest I've seen it, where it's compressed. Now, going back about 12 years ago when it was booming again, it was a lot longer. This has all been compressed with these grants. And now they've made the decision, which they should have done at the very start anyhow, to increase it out to another 18 months. That's relieved some pressure. It's probably saved some companies, because a lot of companies took on a lot more than I reckon they should have taken on. And that's probably saved their bum. So, yeah, then you've got everything else. It's just compounds, like trades, supplies, the shortage of supplies. Then the cyclone hits, and then it's just one thing after another at the moment up here. So, but it's like life, mate. You just got to sort it out, deal with it, and just carry on.
Yeah, and look, with regard to, we'll probably, I was going to ask that question about the cyclone later, but I'll ask that now. And you talk about the rental market and people. One of the questions that I was asking earlier on, the issue that's now occurred is that how the building industry is already under enormous pressure. How is that going to work with regard to, like, we've had the fires down at Wirraloo.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you've got this massive, there's something like 1,000 properties, I think, have been damaged. So that's the last stat that I saw. How is that going to be managed by the building industry? Not just the Midwest, but it's going to impact on the building industry across the board, isn't it?
Oh, mate, I mean, I can't see, we couldn't get up there for 2 years. The amount of work that's in town, I would be very surprised if any builder went up there and built for the next 2 years, because that's how much work's in Geraldton at the moment. And that also causes another problem where it brings others in to the industry, other trades, etc., who think they can go and kill a pig and make a bucket load of money. It's the product, the finished product, that I worry about. We pride ourselves on putting a nice home, and it's just one of those things, I suppose. None of the builders in town I don't think will go up there for a while yet. At least 12 months.
When you say up there, Squizzy, you're referring to Kalbarri?
Kalbarri, yeah. I mean, it's just phenomenal what's happened up there. It's just amazing. I don't think people understand the severity of it. And not just Kalbarri, it's Northampton, it's part of Benue. We're building a house out in down in Minginoo, and they copped it. There was a guy who was supposed to come in and see me from Morrow, and it was still a Cat 2, and it went through Morrow and just devastated through there. So it's the whole line all the way down through. It's amazing.
Well, see, we've got the other issue that we've got in our profession is in the settlement side of things, is that we've got settlements, and I'm not the only one, but I'll use us because that's what I can talk firsthand.
In Kalbarri.
But not just Kalbarri, farming properties where homesteads have been knocked to the ground, or sheds have been gone. And of course, then you've got the situation, not only is there a rebuild required, but then there's millions of dollars being tied up with regard to a settlement process. And in a lot of cases, not in all, but in a lot of cases, people are selling to buy something else. So that's being delayed for what they're trying to buy. And of course, the lending institutions, not in all cases, but again, will not proceed with settlement until the insurance company proceeds with the insurance. The insurance company for the buyer won't proceed until the assessment is being done by the seller's insurer. So there's chain reaction, and of course, everyone's getting frustrated. And I'm sure that's no different. The fact of being, okay, we've now got our insurer doing the assessment. Now we're going to find a builder. Where's he going to come from?
And that's the thing. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Perth's under the pump. We're under the pump. I'm presuming down south's under the pump. So I don't know where they're going to get them from.
Yep.
But they've talked about bringing them in from overseas and over east. Mate, it's different builds. Like from what we build over here to over there, and a lot of different ways that we do stuff as well. So honestly, it's just the biggest dilemma I've ever seen in my life.
So has there been a discussion? Sorry, AD, go on, you go.
Sorry, Squiz, quick question. You referred to the quality as well, and my concern would probably be much like yours, is that if there is a solution that is not currently in town or not currently in WA, and that solution gets brought in, whether it's from the eastern states or even internationally, we fly people that can fill those trade spots, and so therefore more building can go on. It feels to me like it's just a very short-term fix for 1, maybe 2 years. And I don't know, it just doesn't sit right in terms of people standing by what it is that they built. And my gut feel is that there'll just be a depletion in the quality, but then those people won't be around to face the music a couple of years down the track.
Yeah, if you 100%, if you're a tradie, you haven't got a job in WA at the moment, then there's something wrong with you. You're not a good tradie, basically, because every good tradie will have work for the next 2 to 3 years. So, and that's the downside to bring people from overseas or whatever. They do it, they build it, they get the money, they bolt back overseas. Who's going to go and fix all the stuff up? A local builder, and then the local builder goes there and, well, this is wrong, and it just keeps on multiplying. So. I don't know what the answer is at the moment, but it's going to take a long time. I know that.
Has there been any sort of? Are you aware if there's been any sort of meeting of some sort to discuss this at the government level and the building HIA or whatever the case would be, or is that? I mean, obviously, people can't sit. I mean, this is impacting on people's lives. Yeah. And in some cases, businesses and their livelihoods. Has there been some sort of what would you call some sort of meeting or chat about what some answers and having a bit of a powwow of how this can be resolved, or is the government going to step in some way? I mean, people can't obviously sit around for the next 2 or 3 years just waiting.
No, they can't. I haven't heard anything yet in saying that. I'm only a small builder, but also in saying that is that there's a lot of cleanup to be done first. So there's a lot of asbestos. There's some still haven't got power, they haven't got generators. There's a massive amount of caravans being going up there to use as rentals for people to live in. So they've got to clean everything up. They've got to have all the inspections done, engineers, whatever's got to be done, which I can't see happening in under 6 months. Like they've got to have everything sorted before they can start to build. So I know people have been going out there and helping out, putting tarps on, et cetera, but yeah, it's something that we're not used to down here. And I know people say, they shut up the ratings, etc. I mean, the last cyclone that come down here was about 78, I think, Tony. I think you might have been over in America or somewhere with a mate.
Right? He's such a smarty pants. I told him that this afternoon. He thought it was, now he's trying to be, Mr. Knowledgeable. You're serious. Go on, Noddy.
Yeah, go on. It's good, eh? But it's something where once it starts, it'll start. But until it starts, there's a lot of water to go under the bridge before anything can actually start up there. So I've always said it's just going to take years. They won't be back properly for years. So, that was it. Yeah, with the construction, I mean, I hope it's not a knee-jerk reaction where they say, it's just now a cyclone area. I mean, it's been 34 years, whatever it is. And some of the bureaucrats, even the guy that's done all these grants, they make a comment, spurt it out in the public, give themselves a pat on the back, and then the amount of chaos that this has caused for everyone, it's great, but it's the best thing, it's the worst thing. Physically, builders can go broke in a boom with what's happening at the moment. So if they say, it's now a cyclone rated area, that could be an extra 20 grand onto a house, which they don't need. So it's. I hope it's not a knee-jerk reaction. As long as it's built to the conditions, that's 99.9% of the time. Okay, has had a cyclone, but one might never happen for another 50 years.
Just on
What do you think?
that, just on that point, Squizzy, because that was something that I speculated may be something that happens. What's the process like? Where does that go? When does that sort of a decision get made?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think it's when we do it in Geraldton. There's certain areas in Geraldton where we've got to up at certain standards for high winds. Now, on the face of escarpments, etc., where the wind comes up, they've it's differently rated to a house which is out 5 kilometres off the coast, etc., on a flat bit of ground. So that's, I don't know, that'll be something that I'm presuming someone will be looking at. But Kalbarri is nothing like that. It's a completely different scenario up there.
Yeah, but would the insurers, would they get consulted? Would they be pushing for it? Because right now there's a bit of pain on the insurance front, isn't there?
Oh, there's huge pain there. But in saying that, some of the houses that were up there were, like 30, 40, 50, 60 years old. So they were never ever built for cyclones. And they've lasted all this time until now. So obviously they were doing something right, but you kick a cyclone in there and with the high winds, it doesn't matter where you are. It's even up north when they have cyclones, they still do stuff, and they're rated up there. So it's just one of those things.
Yep.
Talking. Can I ask Squiz a question just in terms of building and demand and where it's coming from, or is it too early?
No.
Good. No, it's not too early, or no, I can't ask the question.
Come on.
Okay, anyway, moving on. Squizzy, just slightly changing lane a little bit in terms of the demand for builders and even the homes for yourself. What level of demand would you say is coming from owner-occupiers versus investors that are looking to put properties out there in the rental market?
We're only a small builder, so we took on 22 builds, which is more than enough for us, really. We normally do 14 a year, so we've taken on 22. Plus, we had another 10 on our books. The demand, every single one of our houses is owner-occupied.
Right.
We've got 6 first home buyers. So we've got houses under construction that start at 250 for a first home buyers, and we've got ones on the market at 1.5 million, and everything in between. So the funny thing here now is that with all this work going on and the population and all that type of stuff, is that now we're starting to get people who want to do investment properties because they understand that there's nothing around. You can't rent anywhere. The rents have actually gone through the roof. So now we're starting to get people to ask that question. But we just say, yeah, you can do it, but it won't be starting until next year.
Yeah.
So that's the other downside of it, is that it's going to take a long time.
Are you in touch with, or have you got knowledge of, say, some of the larger builders in town as well? Do you think that their owner occupier builds a dominating play, and there's little to no investment homes being built?
Yeah, I'd say I don't know accurate figures, but I look through the stats from the city of Geraldton, and I would say 95 to 98% is owner occupied.
Yeah. Okay.
Owner occupied. Yeah. Very few investors.
Rentals.
Yeah, rental. Yeah, people building a house as a rental. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Hey, gentlemen, I've had a couple of questions. One is from a friend of mine, Hayley, and she's asked, is there anything, Squiz, to prevent building costs going too high?
Yeah, for the suppliers to stop putting their prices up. We've had, we're kind of lucky. We've had our standard subbies who do all of our work for us, and I've kept their wages up since I started because I wanted the best guys in town. So none of them have come to me and asked for a price rise because we've looked after them the last 5 years. But we have been absolutely smashed, and I mean absolutely smashed, with price rises from suppliers. Now, people say builders are, and this is every builder, that, oh, you're gouging the market because it's so good you put your prices up. We have to put our prices up. I mean, we had steel lintels and T-bar lintels go up 25% in one hit. And that's more than my profit margin. and they're going to go up another 10% in 1st of July. We've had 2 lots of price rises for timber, 2 lots of 9%. It's going up again into the month.
Wow.
You can't get timber. Some timbers you can't get for 6 to 8 weeks. We waited 8 weeks for a dozen bush poles. Every single thing in a house has gone up between 5 and 25%, and
Wow.
some are going up again. So that's coming out of my profit. So if you work it out, we've roughly worked it out at 20 grand a house, times by 22 houses. You can do the math, and that's come out of me profit. Now, people say, oh, there is provisions in contracts to go back to the clients and get the money. But if you go back to a first home buyer, they're on their limit now. If you go back to the first home buyer and say, right, yeah, it's another 12 grand, where do they get the money from?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the banks, it's been valued. The banks aren't going to lend them any more money. They've got no money. So where does the money come from?
Yep.
So it's a vicious circle at the moment.
Yep. The other question that I've had is, and for Mr. Taylor, the question is for Mr.
Whoa.
Taylor. Mr. Taylor, they obviously don't know you that well.
Must be from your wife, mate. Must be from the missus.
She wouldn't say that either, mate.
Are you encountering issues with as if complete valuations on your proposed builds in this peculiar market? Are they coming in too low for financiers? Now, you made comment about this earlier on, I think, when you and I were talking before we went live.
Yeah.
Along similar lines.
Yeah, as of today, we haven't lost one through a valuation, right? But and I know a bloke with no hair and a moustache might be a valuer, but in saying that, is that
it's not me.
Not me. I've got plenty of hair.
I'm sorry, mate. Okay, you did the old Shane Warne thing, have you? So what it is that the valuers previously on construction and on established homes has been really tight, seriously tight. What they've got to get around their head now is that, you know, like the cost to build a brand new house has gone up probably 8% in the last 6 months. They've got to learn that they've got to know, not learn, but they've got to know that, yeah, to build a house now is going to be dearer without a problem. The other thing is that what we're having trouble is with the banks are also telling the valuers to, I don't know if it's or which way it is, if it's the valuers telling the banks, or the banks are telling the valuers when we do our drawdowns. So we've done the same percentages for the last 5 years, and all of a sudden they want it all changed. Now we're just doing one now where we still haven't even recouped our money when the slab goes down. We're still money out of pocket by changing all these percentages. And to try to talk to someone and explain to them is very hard. And it's because there's all these different guys come up from Perth and do valuations up here. And, you know, you just like to sit down, not to bag the crap out of it, but just say, listen, do you understand that this and this and this and this is in that first claim when the slab goes down? So we've got to recoup all the money that we've paid out. So if you multiply that by 10 or 22, you know, and it might be 10 grand, say. So I've got to carry 220 grand for X amount of weeks. We had one the other week where we finished a roof cover and we were owed, the roof cover claim was 130 grand. It took the bank 8 weeks to pay that money.
Wow.
Now, if I have 10 of those, there's 1.8 million. I can't carry that money. It's impossible, you know?
Yeah.
But if I owed the bank money and I was 14 days, after 14 days, I didn't pay, I know what would be happening. They'd be charging me interest. So that's what they're saying. We can charge interest, but we have to charge the client, not the bank. So you'd have to be a pretty dirty old bloke to go to your client and say, right, I'm charging you 25% interest daily, compounded, until your bank pays the claim. So what we're doing now is we're saying to the clients, right, the bank has 14 days to pay this. If it's not payment, we stop the job, because we're still paying money out for trades to go and do stuff. That way, it kind of wakes the client up a bit to say, shit, hang on. Well, if I want my house built, because it's the way it is at the moment, it's a drawn out process anyhow. So we're making them go to the bank and say, right, what's going on, blah, 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 and we need this pay because they've stopped construction on their house. So it's a really bad way at the moment. And you ring the bank up and you'll talk to 3 different people. Oh, she's left, he's left. There's no one person to speak to. You always get shunted sideways. And that's very frustrating. When you're trying to run a business and you pay your wages and your subbies and your supplies and all that type of stuff, it compounds a bit.
Is that situation the same? I know we're focused on WA, but have you had any connection or contact with anybody with regard to the East Coast? Are they, because what's now happened is that worldwide, not just Australia-wide, property is just in a massive bubble and it's gone berserk. But in the building industry here in Australia, is that similar situation occurring on the East Coast as well? Do you know?
I don't know. I've got a couple of mates because I come from Sydney. And like over here, your limit was 850 or 950 or whatever it is. Well, a house and land package deal in Sydney starts at probably $1 million. So that's by the by. So you go back, you got to look at the countries, etc. So they probably are. It hasn't been highlighted. I haven't seen any, but I would say it's similar with, and especially supplies, mate. It's just, I can't get over how long it takes and what's running out. I know that it's crazy and all type of stuff, but I don't know if there was ever a backup plan for, and it's everything. It's bricks, it's steel, mesh. We ran out of mesh up here about a month or so back. Like bricks, they're starting to get short supply. Timber is amazing how short supply that is. So that's another contingent you've got to deal with. And it's like toilet paper. Seriously, when the COVID hit, everybody bought toilet paper. This has hit, everybody's going out and buying bags of cement, gyprock, all this type of stuff, because they're scared that if they don't buy it now, there won't be enough to do their stuff. But I think if everybody just keeps a calm head and doesn't do the dumb stuff, like panic, then you might have to wait a week or two instead of waiting 8 weeks. And that's what people have got to figure out. They didn't need all that toilet paper, you know. They've got a grass, they've got lawn out the back.
I must admit. But even if you go to Bunnings, my youngest brother works in Bunnings in Perth, and he said, "Pardon?
Is he retired? He's retired."
No, he owns it. He owns it.
Anyway, on a more serious note, but he's just saying it is just mind-boggling, even when there's a lockdown, it's meant to be essential shopping. And he said, here's all these people lining up. Oh, no, I've got to paint my house. He's in the paint section. And it's just bizarre. They cannot believe. They thought it was going to sort of taper off. And it's been quite the opposite.
Yeah.
And it has just gone through the roof. So it's not, there's the DIY as well. It's just, and then they're asking him his opinion. What colour do you think I should paint the kitchen, my kitchen? And he said, well, I don't know where you live, but I haven't seen your kitchen. But what about black?
It is. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It is.
It's amazing.
It's quite mind-boggling, and you don't realise it until you talk to people like yourself. And my brother's another example. That Oscar and I have been talking about the property market, and Oscar's involved in the rental market, so he sees that on a day-by-day basis. I'm obviously across the buying and selling process, and but then you go to another level and you talk to someone like yourself. It's crazy. And so what? Is that because the supplies, is that just because it's difficult to get because it's not all in WA? Is that stuff coming from eastern states? Is that stuff international? Or is that just because everybody needs it and so everybody's trying to get what they can get?
I think everybody's trying to get what they get. Yeah, we do get stuff out of state. We try to keep everything we can possibly local because it's going to benefit our region down the track. A lot of the stuff we're getting told is either the cost of iron ore is so high, the Chinese are now doubling their prices and doing this. I said, that's just another excuse. People call it the pandemic excuse and this excuse. To me, I haven't seen anything like this for 4 or 5 years, and all of a sudden it booms and they just jack their price up through the roof. And whether it's coming from over east, it doesn't matter. These big companies should I think, should have seen something happening, and they've done nothing. Zero.
Yep.
And especially country, we seem to get pushed to the back of the line a lot. It seems to be they look after Perth more than they look after the country. And that's my opinion. That's my opinion.
Yeah, well, that was my question. I mean, that's a bit of a human nature in some ways, that the big boys seem to get priority over the little boys, don't they?
God, yeah, 100%.
And that was, that you've answered that. There is one particular bank manager who is a Cats fan. He made mention that Warren Taylor, that's a terrible story about the banks, and it makes him quite embarrassed for his industry of nearly 40 years.
Yeah, and so should that person who I don't know. But it is. I mean, we haven't had any drama with his bank, but it's pretty sad. And we're doing it. We've got another one this week with two claims, and they've been going for 4 weeks. We still haven't got money. So it's pretty sad. It's pretty sad. Where they dictate a lot to us, and we can't dictate to them.
Mate, a few weeks back, probably longer than a few weeks now, OD and I went out and had a hit of golf in Perth, and we came across a couple of young guys, lovely fellow. One was a tradie working in Newman, and in fact, I must drop him a note. He listens; they watch our program, and he was building a house down at Dunsborough, and the other was a carpenter, and he had, I think, 5 or 6 contractors working for him. He was telling us at that stage the brickies had gone from 90-something cents a brick to $1.40. Now I've read where it's something like $2.40, and it was near on impossible to get anybody to help him do. He needed more workers. It was impossible to find any tradesmen. Now that's probably 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago. Yeah. Is that what you're experiencing in the Midwest, and is that what's across the board? That's just the same old?
Actually, we're not. When I started, I basically just about handpicked, or our team at Warren Taylor Homes went and sourced out the good trades. The good part about it is we know each other up here. So all the trades know each other. And we kept their rates high. Yep. A lot of the other big companies dropped their rates by 25 to 30%. So I kept their rates high, and I dropped my margin back because I wanted the best guys that I could possibly get to do the housing. So with that, we haven't had any of our trades yet come back and ask for a rise. They understand that they can have work here for the next 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it is. And they know we'll look after them. We know that if something does happen, we'll give them a pay rise as soon as we can. But when you're getting gouged through the back door by all the suppliers, I want to keep my business going as long as I can. So it might be 12 months before we can give them a price rise. But in saying that, we can do it in other ways for them and help them out. So it's just sad that, yeah. But then in saying that also, Tony, is that I know guys that have coming out of retirement and they're putting teams together that haven't bricked for a long, long time. Now, not a lot happens in the bricking industry other than people making machines to brick up houses. And yeah, it's the old visage of you get what you pay for. Yeah. And with some of these tradies out there, yeah, you get what you pay for.
Just changing a direction a little bit. So, with regard to the building side of things, what things have changed obviously in the last probably 3 or 4 years. But what are the trends? What are the sort of things that people are looking for in a home now when it comes to a style? Is there something specific that people are now wanting in a home that they want that perhaps wasn't sort of entertained 4, 5, 6 years? I mean, when did you start? 5, 6 years ago? Have you noticed a change what people are requiring in a home now compared to when you first started?
Oh yeah, huge. Geraldton was always double brick, and they were pumped it into their heads through the brickworks and all the brick making pieces, which is fine. That was just what it is. We probably do 10% double brick now. Wow. We would do probably 70%, 75% brick veneer, and the rest is cladded. Our maintenance is just about nil. I do the maintenance for all the houses. and we hardly go back and do maintenance. We've got an operations manager who is a bit of OCD on everything's got to be 110%, and that's a pain in the bum, but it is so good because, to go through a house and have nothing on their punch list before handover is incredible. So if you look after, if you do that, it's fine. With products, so many new products coming out, claddings and internal walls are different products instead of just gyprock. And people look at the old what's the thing in the telly on the TV, the renovation shows, and that's a headache and a half because some of the stuff is only on trial, so that they want it tomorrow in their house, and it's just like, well, we just can't quite get that yet. But massive amounts of different change. I think it's a new generation of home builders as well, or the youngest, and they different stuff, and they're sick and tired of everything being the same. And so we're doing a lot of different stuff.
Squizzy, what about internally, like floor plans and everything? Has COVID changed? Because obviously there were some stats actually I heard on the news tonight. I think it was on the radio actually, and the number of people that have left the cities and have moved out to the regions as a result of COVID, and it's been forced upon us that we can actually work a lot more from home and therefore don't need to be in the centralised locations and cities and those commercial hubs. So have you seen any changes in people's demand on the basis that they're probably going to be in their homes a lot more, and that seems to be the way of the future, so not everyone has to be in an office, and so therefore they'll design their home a bit different to make use of the living spaces? Is that a trend yet, or do you foresee that changing?
No, we've got all of our plans, etc. But when a client comes in, they tell us what they want. So, and if it's someone like that, then we'll design it how they want to do it. I had my daughter got married Easter Sunday, and I had a couple of mates and their wives and everything come over from Sydney, and the two of them had to work over here. So I threw them in my office, and she said, "Oh my God, how do you work here?" She said, "You're straight across the road from the ocean. You got all the activity across the road." And she said, "I could actually just come over here and just work from as a remote location, you know." And this is from Sydney. So people are looking more to doing that type of housing now, and it is becoming more prevalent. And Geraldton's very outdoor area, so they put a lot of time and effort with the clients into dealing where they're going to mainly use the house. You know, if it's just a bedroom, it's a bedroom. Don't spend thousands of dollars in a bedroom, right? But if you want certain areas like upgraded to a certain standard, then that's what we do. So to question, yes, there is a big difference.
Yeah, super.
And what sort of gadgets are people looking at besides the design of a place? Are there some gadgets that really stand out that you go, oh my God, is there something that's just about knocked you off your chair?
Yeah, it's quite funny. You can, like, we did one where you clap your hands and it ticks the lights on, and you know, you can just normal stuff. It's normal stuff now, but you know, if it's a hot day, you can, on your way home, you can just start your phone up and tick your air conditioning on, and then you can open the roll door instead of getting out. Instead of a button, you can go to the front door, just tap your phone on the front door and it opens up. And it's crazy. I don't know where it's going to stop, but it's just amazing what people can come up with now. And it all comes down to cost, of course, but some of the things are just crazy.
I can control my reticulation when I go to Geraldton. I can control my reticulation in Perth on my phone.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
Crazy.
And I think it was a $200 internet thing that they connect into the controller that I've already got, and you download the application, and I can do. So if I see it's going to rain and my reticulation is due to go on, I can turn it all off.
TB, that's amazing technology, mate. But I drove past your place the other day. What's your excuse, mate? That looked atrocious.
Excuse me.
Or was that your neighbour? Maybe that was your neighbour's house.
Oh, you're such a man. And I'll give you a little bit of info. This is something you'll both appreciate. Australia has adopted almost as many smartphones. So, everybody knows I like my stats, okay? So Australia has adopted almost as many smartphones as the country has adults, and the number of internet-connected devices in our homes has multiplied 6 times in the past decade.
Yeah,
So there you go. So we're all over it. And they also reveal the pace of technology adoption is accelerating, with the number of Aussies using dinner deliveries, online grocery orders, digital payments, and streaming TV services have just gone through the roof in the last year.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's amazing.
So we have become, and talking about digital, one particular article that really tickled my fancy was a home that was recently, where are we? It was recently built by a robot. Tell me more. Come on.
Yeah. I would like to live in it myself, but it's funny, Tony. When we had the cyclone up here, the no power, right? Phone was pretty average. The amount after the red alert was lifted, the amount of people driving around was amazing. Do you know why?
Yep, I do.
To charge their phones.
Charge their phones.
Yeah. Then after a couple of days, there was huge lines to the service stations because they've been driving around and charged their phones. They'd run out of power because there was no fuel, because there was no power on the pumps. It was just a compound. Then I went back to when I was a kid, when there was just these red things on the street corners. But you go in and put some money in and say,
Superman used to go on one of them.
That's
right.
No,
not Superman. It was a Superman.
Yeah, Superman.
Yeah, Superman. Yeah.
So you look at that, and you're thinking, how much do we rely on technology? And we were lucky. I got a generator. I kept 2 fridges and a freezer going, charged our batteries, and we had a light. Other than that, we were fine. But how much do we rely on technology to live nowadays? And
keep going. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it is. And we certainly, like in our business, our profession, we were shut down completely. And I was fortunate that I was able to have the phones directed to me in Perth so that I could at least talk to people. But of course, people in Geraldton were having difficulties of communicating. And so, it was really, really difficult. And it was interesting. You talk about getting fuel. There's one of my mates, in fact, a bloke that you know very well, who made a derogatory remark about you before we went on our broadcast. His son went to go and get fuel, and the queue was up the highway, and went, no, this is not going to work. I think it was only 1 or 2 service stations that were available at the time in town. So he then went to Donga, and it was no better. So he proceeded to go to Lehman and pick up his bread and some fresh milk and fill up his car and some jerry cans and drove home.
Yeah.
True story.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Hey, listen, there's a quick question. So we have a question. It's been an absolute pleasure. Our time goes really quickly, but we've had a couple of questions, and one is actually a building question. Can you, so this question was, and this is a legitimate question asked by someone who sent it to me. I'm buying a block. In fact, they didn't send it to me. They rang me about this. They said, I'm buying a block of land, but I want to build on it. But how do I know if the block is going to be appropriate to build on? So I reckon this is a perfect question for you.
I think everybody's got an opinion on it. And when I did real estate, my idea was, if it was a beautiful, loamy looking block, it was the best block to build on. Being in the building industry now for quite a few years, it's the worst block to build on. I'll always go out with a client, whether they built with this or they're going to build with this or not, and it's always good to go out before you buy the block. Have a look. We've built in a lot of areas in town, so there's certain areas where have got sand, have got clay, has got a mixture, etc. The flatness of the block, whether it's in a bushfire rating is another thing as well. So a lot of blocks now are in bushfire ratings. So it's always good to go out with someone with a bit of knowledge that some salesmen have just don't understand, right? Because they don't get out of the office enough. So I'd say ring up, go out, sound your block, get a bit of a rough idea of what there is going to be any costs. There might be rock. There's a whole myriad of things that can do it. But yeah, people look at a block and they think, oh, it's pretty level, and then you go and you get it surveyed, and all of a sudden you've got 1.5 metre fall from one side to the other. You've got a retaining walls. It could be cost you 30, 40 grand. You've got fill sand, and it just compounds. So yeah, we always go out with clients and give them a really good idea. The way the block faces, especially in Geraldton, with the wind and all that type of stuff. So there's a whole heaps of different things that have to happen when you buy bins. But yeah, and that's a free service for us as well. So that's easy.
And do you reckon they give that sort of service in the city?
You're joking, aren't you?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking both of you. Yeah.
My answer is I would hope so. I would hope so.
I would say the small builders probably would. Some are just in it just to sell a block and build a house. You're a number, right? And they just want your money. We treat people as people, and because it's a massive investment, I want them to go away after they've built with us and say that was unreal. You helped us so much. We learnt so much, rather than go away and say all you wanted was me money and bugger off. I'm not going to entertain you anymore. So you treat people the way I treat people the way I want to be treated, and that's the easiest thing you can do.
I've got another question. Someone's already ahead of you. Squiz. Haley's come back and said designing to hide from the southerly. She suggested in Geraldton, and she's all over it. Hey, she's spot on. Another question, which is, hey, you guys, can you tell me what a terms agreement is? As I had an agent engaged, suggest to me that we drew up a terms agreement. OD, are you able to advise what a terms agreement is about in relation to buying real estate?
No, not really. What's another term to describe a terms agreement? Are we just talking about a contract of sale which has all the terms on the contract of sale, or are we talking about some sort of a more of an informal expressions of interest that would solely detail the main terms of a contract? I'd probably need a bit more info, TV.
Yeah, I might follow that one up, because I've certainly had a situation where I've done a terms agreement, but it's been beyond. There's a contract in place, and then there's been some changes as such, a variation, but then they've sort of put some terms together as to what both parties agreed to for that contract to proceed further. So maybe we might just follow that one up, and I put a little asterisk on that. We'll follow through. The other question that I was going to ask you, Squiz, which has been asked a few times, with the home builder, where's that at now? So people can't apply, they no longer can apply for the home builder grants, can they?
No.
That's done.
Yep.
So the extension with regard to home builder, because I had someone come and ask me that recently. They said, oh, no, the home builder has been extended. But I said, no, if you look further to that, the home builder has been extended only for the people that have got that grant, to allow the builders to, because they're so busy, to allow the builders to get the job done. And even then, they're going to be under a lot of stress to get, in some cases, for those to achieve that. Yeah, and I think we made a comment before that, some of these people, particularly first home buyers, they're relying on that 40-odd thousand big time. And as you just said, some of those increases that have occurred, that 40-odd thousand is going to gobble that up pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah, it is, yeah. So what's on the market at the moment, the only things are for first home buyers, basically. You get your stamp duty paid for, and you get 10 grand. That's the only stuff that's on the market. Other than that, you've had to sign your contracts prior to the 31st of December or I think it was the 14th of March. But that's it. She's all done and dusted. You might get the odd rogue that might backdate contracts, but I think they'll be found out and should be punished the full.
You're definitely putting people at risk when you start doing that stuff. Hey, so there are the couple of questions we had. I'll just quickly tell you some of the headlines that have been around the place. How a glorified shed. Now, you're talking about the rental market. You see, I saw the other day where someone actually, Oscar's not into sheds. We did a segment on sheds, and he just didn't get excited, Squiz, at all. He was not a shed man at all.
Well, not the way that you got excited, TV. I mean, it's just a shed for crying out loud.
Oh, mate, sheds, the variety of sheds you can have, mate. Seriously.
No idea, Oscar. You're missing out, mate.
How a glorified shed was, this was a headline, how a glorified shed was, and it looks pretty special, I should post it, was transformed into a social media darling in Queensland. So that was a headline. First home buyers squeezed back out of the property market. And I had an interesting scenario the other day, in fact, this week, where a first home buyer has bought a property for $450,000 and they immediately are up for another, and they're 20,000 outside the deadline, the cut line for exemption of stamp duty. So they're now up for about another $4,500, which is impact on their budget enormously. And I really believe they need to consider the pricing when you consider values, where they're going. I think that increase of that base rate needs to be increased up to at least 500, 520, 530 to give first home buyers for established homes an opportunity. We've done everything we can for first home buyers when it goes to building, but I really believe, and as was explained today, the people that want to build and might have the financial resources, they're not going to get a build happening because the builder's not going to be able to do it for 2 or 3 years. Yeah. So therefore they look at buying an established home, and they're not supporting the first home buyer when it comes to established home. And I think that needs to be seriously considered.
Hugely important, Tony, is that if they don't have that opportunity to get into the market now, right, they're just going to be renters for the rest of their life. And they're probably going to be paying more money renting than they would be if they were paying a mortgage off.
Yep.
So they've got to help as easy as that.
Yep, totally agree. Okay, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll definitely have to get you on again because there's so much to discuss and so much to talk about. We can go, and not only that, mate, the little man in the middle, that's probably as little as he had to say for the last 51 episodes. I've never heard him so quiet. Unbelievable.
Now that I know that I make you two guys look good, I'll come back anytime.
You know what? Actually, you know what? I have deliberately been very quiet tonight because there's a local banker there in Geraldton that made some reference to, with the 3 grey-haired gentlemen, I wonder who's going to talk the most. And at that point, when I read that comment, thanks, JB, I at that point said, no, that's it. I'm not going to be talking much tonight. So that was a deliberate effort on my part.
Oh, dear. You can buy lunch next.
Listen, no, mate, in all seriousness, it's been an absolute pleasure. We really, really appreciate your time, and we know you're busy, and we know you're driving trucks in between trying to build houses. And
hey, hang on a second. That's it. When you rang me, because they had no drivers, so I went and got a truck and did the earthworks, and I took all the rubbish out to the tip, so that's why I had to drive today.
Good story.
No, it was. He was in the truck when I was talking to him. True story. Yeah, that's true. But mate, no, it's been fantastic. We'll definitely get you on. But we always finish with an if question. Right. So the if question is, if you were given the opportunity to get someone to look after you for, be it in the household. So this is you and Janine, and you had the opportunity to be catered for the next 5 years. Now your choice was, the top of the was a chef or someone to look after the cooking, someone to look after the cleaning, or someone to do the gardening, etc. What would your choice be and why?
Is that Oscar or just me?
You first. You first.
Right, well, Janine doesn't cook, so that's pretty high. Cleaning, she's a great cleaner, and we've got plastic grass. I'd say cook for sure.
Bit of an easy one for you.
Got you.
Yep. OD, I think we asked this question before. Did you choose cook? Didn't you choose chef?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, I just love the food, and if I get to place my order from whatever part of the world that I want, I can take care of the cleaning and the gardening, no problem.
Yeah. I'm choosing cleaning because I don't mind the chefing, and my wife can cook as well, so we don't mind the cooking bit. So I'm going cleaning. I think the idea of someone coming in and making the house spotless when you're busy is that, to me, it would be a bit of a dream. And I think my little princess would enjoy that too.
I think you watch too many of those maid videos on the internet TV. I think they're not real, mate. Videos.
Hey, for those that are listening, for those that have joined us, hang on. There's one more comment before we go. I'll quickly check this.
Does it say get off?
No, he just said. No, it is complimentary. It says, OD, I admire your restraint. Unbelievable.
Well, to whoever that was, my response is just give me the money.
He's a bank manager. He's a bank manager that follows us closely. Hey, listen, for those that are listening, for those that are joining us on our podcast will be available. It'll be uploaded, downloaded, be available tomorrow. So you can get that through your normal podcast avenues that you do, be it iTunes or Spotify, Google Play, and there's heaps more. But you can do that. But we will be on again next week. At this stage, it looks like we may have our little first home buyer on. It might be pre-recorded. Haven't planned that yet. But so what we do, we follow. We've got a young Kieran who's a first home buyer, and we're following his journey. So we're going to get an update with him. He confirmed with me today that he should be available. So we'll do that. And for anybody who's got any questions, if you've got any information or you've got a particular topic, we've got some really, really good guests coming up. We've got someone associated with private sales. There's a variety of sites where you can advertise your sale if you're trying to sell your property privately. So we've got one of those gentlemen who's put his hand up and would love to come on board. So we've got that. We've got an agent down south we're looking forward to having on board, and we're trying to get Justin Collins back. Justin's is associated with the insurance, and I think with what's been going on, it'll be all relative. So look forward to all those opportunities. Look forward to see you again next week, ID. Thanks a million, mate, again.
Thinking, at some point in time, we should get a builder on.
We should do, yeah.
What a real builder, Bob. I'm talking about Bob now, hey. Bob the
builder. Not one from the country, yeah. No, mate, it's been a pleasure, and we wish you all the best with everything that's going ahead. I know it's challenging times, but we wish you all the best and hope it all works out. For all those that are, we look forward to seeing you all again. Please stay safe. Please look after yourselves, and we'll do it all again next week. Take care and speak to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Take care.